How's it going, Fight Family? Welcome back to the channel. We got UFC 290 coming on later tonight. So yeah, I know I'm posting this card a little bit late, per usual. I mean, that's what I like to do. I like to post it on around Friday or Saturday, so I know exactly who's on the card, because a lot of people end up falling out, missing weight, yada yada yada. And of course that happened to this card too. We lost the JDM fight. In terms of my last fight card, I went 7-5. I'm on a 3-fight win streak when it comes to main events, so we're hoping to make it 4 tonight with Alexander Volkanovski versus Yair Rodriguez. 166 wins to 100 losses. I'm doing decent this year. 63% win rate, 12-10 in main event picks. I'm starting to really bring that one back. Moving on into the star prospect of the night, I mean, hands down, it's got to be Bo Nickel. He has the most hype out of any of the prospects on the card, and there's a good little handful of them. But Bo Nickel is just built different. He's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, especially American wrestlers. He damn near could go down in the top 3. And I'm really looking forward to see what he can do. The show stealer of the night, usually I like to give this to something that isn't the main event, but tonight's main event is perfectly placed. I mean, this is just a great fight. Without a doubt, the most technical, most explosive fight on the card, and in my opinion has the most likelihood to be fireworks. Next up, the fighter in the oven, it's got to be Dan Hooker, man. I mean, if he can't win this tonight against Jalen Turner, I really think that means that his time at the top as a lightweight is gone for good. And that's unfortunate, because Hangman is fucking awesome. I'm a huge Hangman fan. I would love to see him stay at the top of lightweight, but it's just filled with killers, so I mean, this is how it goes. Now we can move on into the first fight of the night, Kamwela Kirk taking on Esteban Ribovic. Esteban Ribovic looked like he was dying on the scale, making weight. He was praying, so thankful when he finally did make weight. But he's really good. He's like 13-1. I believe I picked against him in his last fight, and then I kind of regretted it because he actually went out there and looked good. Kamwela Kirk is nice. He has decent striking. I just feel like he's overall a step behind a majority of fighters at that next level in this weight class. And he's right behind Esteban, in my opinion. Moving on up the card, Shannon Ross versus Jesus Aguilar. I'm going to go in with Jesus Aguilar. Shannon Ross just has too many losses on his record. And what I look for and stuff like that is how many times you've been defeated. It's not just that, but like how many different ways you've been defeated. And Shannon Ross has a lot of different ways to be defeated. While Jesus Aguilar, we've seen less weaknesses in his game, less holes, less ways for him to be taken out. I feel like this is going to end as a decision. It's going to be a competitive fight, probably for the first round, and then I think the second and the third, Jesus is going to take over. Moving on, Cameron Simon taking on Terrence Mitchell. Cameron Simon, of course, is the little homie to Dricus du Plessis. They're both South African, pretty much the only 2 South African fighters on the card. And I don't know much about Terrence Mitchell other than I remember him being on The Ultimate Fighter the same season that Kai Kara France was on, and Kai Kara France starched his ass. He's a really good fighter, though. Overall, he's 15-2. We just haven't seen enough from him. And when I was looking at his fights back on the regional scene, I felt like there was just a lot that was missing. So I wasn't really able to get too much research done into his fights to really see how his style is. But I just have a feeling that Cameron Simon's going to be too much on the feet. Maybe this Terrence kid can take it to the ground, but I don't know. Moving on, Vitor Petrino taking on Marcin Prachnio. Vitor Petrino is a fucking unit. I picked him for his last fight against Anton Turkalj, and I did not think that fight was going to be as ridiculous as it was, as back and forth. But that just goes to show that Anton is much better than I feel like a lot of people have given him credit for. But Vitor Petrino, he's undefeated for a reason. He's super explosive. I really feel like he's going to come out here and knock out Marcin Prachnio in the first round. I just have a feeling that it's going to happen, especially because I was watching some YouTuber's video breaking down this card the other day, and he does not think that Vitor Petrino has any chance, and that just makes it even feel more solidified in my mind. Moving on up the card, Tatsuro Taira taking on Edgar Cairez. I'm really interested in this fight because this Edgar dude looks like a fucker, yo. Like, you know what I mean? Like, straight fucker, Holmes. And I feel like he's going to come in there to scrap, and I fuck with that a lot, actually. But Tatsuro Taira is just too good of a prospect, man. He's too good on the ground. He's undefeated for a reason. I believe he's 13-0. Something ridiculous like that. And it's for a reason. He's really, really slick on the ground. If he can start to improve his striking more, he's going to go far in this division. This division being flyweight, by the way. This bout is a catch weight. I believe they weighed in at like 130 pounds. But overall, flyweight fight. I will be picking Tatsuro Taira. I think he's going to win by submission. Moving on, up the card, Jimmy Crute versus Alonzo Menefield. A rematch of their last banger fight where, in my opinion, Crute kind of threw the fight. It was his fight to win, and he got fucking obliterated in the first 2 rounds, but managed to come back through with his grappling. I really feel like Jimmy Crute's just going to come in this fight like a different beast, and he's going to take it to the mat way quicker. He knows exactly what he needs to do, and I really think that he's going to either submit or TKO Alonzo Menefield. I'm leaning towards a sub. If it was on verdict, I would probably go towards sub, but I could honestly see Jimmy Crute finishing this wherever the fight goes. Moving on up the card, Yasmin Uruguay taking on Denise Gomes. I'm going Yasmin Uruguay. It's very, very, very rare that we see a female prospect coming up the rankings that's as good as Yasmin Uruguay. I believe she's undefeated too, and she's a Mexican prospect, so just look forward to her putting on a show tonight. Denise Gomes pulls out the upset, I would be genuinely impressed. Most of the time these fights come down to a coin flip. I don't know why that is. It just seems like the lack of testosterone in fucking women's MMA makes it so there's way less finishes, way less exciting fights, and it's a lot more common for a fighter that should blow another one out of the water on paper to somehow lose a clinch decision or a fucking bullshit robbery split decision. So I'm going to Yasmin Uruguay by a sub. Moving on up the card, we've got Robbie Lawler taking on Nico Price. This is a fucking amazing fight. Everyone's complaining that it's not on the main card, but like, guys, how many years are you going to be a fight fan and not realize that being the top of the prelims is better than being into the first couple slots on the main card? It's honestly even better than being like the feature fight of the main card. I would rather be top of the prelim headliner, and a lot of former UFC fighters and champions and whatnot, current ones, all agree with that sentiment. Robbie Lawler is going to be getting his shine regardless because he's a fucking legend and we love him. Unfortunately, he's fighting somebody that is going to bring that fucking dogfight. I mean, it's fortunate for us fans, but it's unfortunate for Robbie because there's no shot that he has at winning this. They're going to go in there, scrap like dogs. Robbie's chin and his age are going to show, and eventually Nico Price is going to get the win via TKO. I have almost no doubt in my mind. If he can't TKO an old-ass Robbie Lawler, he's mid. Moving on up the card, Jalen Turner versus I'm sorry, I fucked it up. Bo Nickel versus Val Woodburn. I'm excited for this fight, actually, because Val Woodburn is undefeated, has more experience in the cage than Tresean Gore, who was Bo Nickel's last opponent. And I feel like there's just more mysteries to this because he's just coming on out of nowhere, last minute, getting this spot on the main card of UFC 290, which is pretty dope in and of itself. The whole time he was at the press conference, you could tell he was like wide-eyed and smiling a lot, really taking in the moment, but he seemed to be enjoying it. So if there was an underdog to pick on this card, like for a massive, massive underdog, I would go with Val Woodburn, but like, let's be real, Bo Nickel is way bigger than him, and it's rare that you see Bo Nickel towering over someone at middleweight like that in height. I think he's just going to ragdoll him on the mat, honestly. Moving on up the card, Jalen Turner versus Dan Hooker. This is a tough fight to predict, man, because Jalen Turner is a beast, so slick on the feet. I feel like it's going to be really difficult for lightweights to outstrike him. The problem is he missed weight, and on top of that, I feel like there's just a change in Dan Hooker lately. Like, he went Super Saiyan, now he thinks he's Charlie Oliveira. It's funny, too, he used to be talking all that shit on Charlie Olives, but now he's joining the club. He went Super Saiyan, dyed his hair, and it's looking like he's reached a new level in his game. Everyone around him is saying that he's mentally more there. The problem is we're going to find out really quickly in this fight if Dan Hooker is physically up to the task. Meaning, I think all those wars that he's had are going to like really weigh on him, and by the time the fight starts, we're going to see that. Oddly enough, I'm still going to be picking Dan Hooker. I'm going to trust him to try to get this one done. He's good against taller fighters that are strikers, and maybe Jalen missing weight is a key into where his mental space is at. I don't know for sure. Sometimes it does mean something, though. Sometimes it means nothing to read into that type of shit. Either way, I'm going to be going with Dan Hooker. I feel like he can get this done via TKO. I'd be really, really impressed if he gets that done. It'll put him right back up into lightweight contention. It'd be really exciting for a lot of us fans of Dan Hooker. I mean, it's hard to not like the guy. He's just a fucking real BMF. Moving on into the feature fight of the night. An amazing fight. Could be a fight night main event in and of itself. Rob Whittaker versus Dricus du Plessis. Now, everyone is saying Dricus has absolutely no chance. And to y'all, I say you're 100% right. Even with this whole, he was working at 40% oxygen capacity shit before his nose got fixed. Blah, blah, blah. I don't care, bro. You're fighting Rob Whittaker, who's only lost to Izzy in the last, decade. And before that, who was it? Was it Wonder Boy that he lost to? I don't even remember if that was his last loss before that. But, either way, there's, a certain style of striker that seems to figure out Rob, or, certain finesse type of striker. And that's not Dricus. Now, there is a chance he'll come in there and try to steamroll Rob from the get-go and just, catch him off guard and TKO him or knock him out. And I really fucking hope that doesn't happen. But there is a chance of it. Realistically, though, I think we're going to see a classic Rob Whittaker fight. He's going to go out there. He's going to be landing his snap jab, keeping his range, landing his obliques, landing nice leg kicks, maybe mixing up to the body, throwing that 1-2 head kick that's super hard to read, just tricky as fuck. And I feel like it's just going to be a classic Rob domination. I think he's going to TKO Dricus, to be honest. I think Dricus has had a good run. He's had a surprising run to this point. If he had even fought a more conditioned Darren Till, more conditioned Derek Brunson, I really think that he would have lost those fights, honestly. But he didn't, and he powered through, and I respect that. But this is just a different beast. You're essentially fighting Champion B of middleweight. And to a lot of chromosomes out there, they think Rob won the second fight with Izzy, so they kind of argue he is the champ. But I'm still going Rob. Moving on up the card, Brandon Moreno taking on Alejandro Pantoja for our co-main event. This is a fight that is technically a trilogy. I mean, okay, not technically. Realistically, it's a trilogy. Technically, this is only their second fight in the UFC. But they also fought in the Contender Series, and Alejandro Pantoja won both fights. Won a decision and got a submission. So it's really hard for me to pick against somebody that has the number of their opponent. Everyone's going Brandon Moreno. It's actually fucking crazy to me what the odds are. You guys think just because this man got the belt that he's like that different type of beast? I get it raises you like 20% when you get the belt. I believe in that. But I just don't think that he's going to be able to make up for the massive, massive difference in grappling that they have. Brandon Moreno's an elite grappler, but Alejandro Pantoja is that next level. It's like the differences between a third degree and a second degree black belt. There's degrees for a reason, because you really see the levels once you get up to that top echelon of anything, especially grappling. And I feel like Alejandro Pantoja's aggression mixed with the fact that he knows that he's beating this guy, he's gonna have a big brother mentality about this fight. I just think he's gonna go in there and he's gonna find his time to take him down and sub him. I don't even think he's going to care about landing too much on the feet. He's probably just going to be staying on the feet to try to close range and find his openings for the grappling exchanges. And I can just really see Alejandro Pantoja picking up a submission win. Now, this could also be a war. I could see that. I could see it going to a decision. And if it does go to a decision, I would favor Brandon Moreno. His striking is just a lot more slick, and he's a lot more battle-tested for these 5-round fights and for these championship fights. But I'm going Alejandro Pantoja. And now for the main event of the night, Alexander Volkanovski, in my opinion, the pound-for-pound best striker in the UFC currently, and damn near the pound-for-pound best fighter, right under John Jones, taking on Yair Rodriguez, he's like if you play your homie in a fighting game and he doesn't know how to play, and he's just mashing buttons and shit, but it's working, because you don't know how to read that unpredictable chaos. That's like Yair. And that's why so many people are nervous for Volk in this fight, because Yair genuinely, out of nowhere, can throw a jumping switch kick into a spinning heel kick, into a front kick, into a Superman jab, and one of those is going to land. Like, it's so hard for you to read all that shit, and unless Volk is, like, really diligent about taking it to the ground, I feel like he's going to eat some shots that he's not used to eating, and he's going to be taking some damage that he's not used to taking. But regardless, Volkanovski is a different breed of a human. That's fucking evident. Look at him when he played rugby league. Tiny-ass dude, massive weight, and he was out there trucking motherfuckers. He was playing in a position he should have never been in, and he was solid. And now he's a fighter in featherweight, where he's still undersized, and he's the champion. He's a beast, and he's taken out both of the legends of the featherweight division in Jose Aldo and Max Holloway 3 times, which is just, it's so hard to, it's really difficult to pick against somebody like that, especially when we've seen Yair Rodriguez go out there against somebody like Frankie Edgar at the tail end of his prime, honestly past his prime, and Frankie Edgar demolished Yair Rodriguez. Just pillar to post, took him to the ground, beat him up. And to say that Yair can't have that happen to him against Volk would be craziness. Volk can do that, honestly, easier than Frankie did. So I'm picking Volk. That's going to be all for today's prediction video. I love y'all. I'll catch y'all. I'm just going to keep this one short and sweet. I'm going to be posting the results of the fights that are tonight, so stay tuned.